Our readings today offer a simple message about humility and pride. In our first reading, Sirach warns us to live our lives with humility. In the gospel, Jesus points out that those who exalt themselves will be humbled. So, what is humility? According to the Oxford Dictionary, humility is a modest or low view of one's own importance. So, what's that mean? Does that mean that we're to be quiet and passive, letting ourselves be walked on? Does it mean denying our gifts and talents and hiding in the background? That's not what Jesus is talking about when he talks about humility. C.S. Lewis said, "Humility is not thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less." It's not putting yourself down, but lifting others up. Humility is truth. It's seeing ourselves clearly. It's knowing that everything we are and everything we have comes from God. Not to keep for ourselves, but to share with others. We're all part of God's great symphony of creation. We're all part of that orchestra, and each of us has our own part to play. If we don't do our part, the music of that symphony is lessened. Shakespeare, in the play As You Like It, wrote, "The world is a stage, and all men and women merely players. We have our entrances and our exits, but we all have our parts to play." God has given us talents. In our baptism, we were baptized to be children of God, and we were made to be light in the world, to shine in the darkness of despair and fear and hopelessness, to do the little things that show that God is present and active in the world. At the beginning of this homily, I said, Jesus gave a simple message, but just because it's simple doesn't mean that it is easy. Being Christian is hard. Being humble can be especially hard for Americans. We have been taught that we're the greatest country in the world, that we are the richest. Actually, we're like number 13. And we have the best health care, number 18. We are number 1, unfortunately, in the per capita prison population. But our society tells us that we have to look a certain way, own certain things, earn more money than the next guy, buy bigger and better and more expensive things. We need to strive to be famous, and then we'll be happy, to climb that ladder of success, to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps when we have fallen down, and to do it all on our own. That's what being American is. That's what society tells us. At least that's what many people think. They think, I don't need God. I can do it by myself. It's what the people at the banquet today in the gospel reading were doing. They're fighting to be noticed, to be one of the social elites, so that others can look at them and be impressed with how great they are. Our culture raises up athletes and celebrities and actors as models of how we should be and what we should strive for. If we could be rich and famous like them, we would be happy. It's called social climbing. And Jesus tells us not to do that, to stop social climbing, that trying to gain social status, trying to reach the highest seat will never truly satisfy. Jesus is saying, your identity is in me. And when we forget about our identity in Jesus, that's when we try to gain status. That's when we try to find love in all the wrong places. And so Jesus says, stop doing that and see me. We have no identity. We don't know who we are outside the Heavenly Father. Stop social climbing. Stop trying to gain social status. We don't need status. We need Jesus. And Jesus clearly had the gift of humility. He was certainly more other than self-focused. He humbled himself and became a man. He suffered, died, and was buried, and rose again to take away the sins of the world. He allowed himself to be humiliated, to raise us up to be liberated as children of God. And he is the ultimate example of the servant leader. I've been ordained a deacon for just under 5 years. And when you're ordained, it requires a certain amount of humility. Laying prostrate in front of the altar, pledging your life to God is definitely a humbling experience. However, before I was ordained, I was blessed to know two very holy men of God in every sense of the word. Their names were Father Sylvan Capitani and Father Thomas Hoke. Both have passed on now to their heavenly kingdom. And they both helped me in my spiritual formation by the things that they said and the things that they did for me. But the greatest gift I received from them was observing the way that they lived. One was very quiet. He had a deep respect for St. Teresa of Lisieux, the little flower, who was known for doing little sacrifices for love. The other was loud and boisterous. He loved to cook. If he hadn't been a priest, I think he would have been a chef. And he loved people. He loved feeding people. We had a ministry at our church, along with some of the other churches, where we had a soup kitchen and we would feed them, like we would provide a meal once a month. And when he got there, the meal that they were getting every month from us was spaghetti. And there's nothing wrong with spaghetti, but he said, just because you're poor doesn't mean that you can't have a good meal. So he would provide gourmet meals for the people at the soup kitchen. He had a heart for people. They both were filled with righteous indignation when they saw people being persecuted and suffering. And they both loved Jesus with all their hearts. And they loved their parishioners and the people around them. Some of you may think that they were humble because they were clergy. But being ordained is no magic bullet to being humble. They were called, just as each of us is called, to imitate Christ. They've been gone for, Father Hoke, about 5 years now. And he died suddenly. And I still miss them both. There's still questions that I would love to answer or to ask them. So I just want to remind everyone to don't take life for granted, because you never know when it'll end. You never know when that person that you're estranged from won't be there anymore. You never know when you won't have a chance to humbly say that you're sorry, that you love them, Don't let that opportunity pass you by. Think about how we're living socially. The world we live in it's a tough world, but it's probably no more tough or no more difficult than it was 2,000 years ago. We're all called to be disciples. We have the gift of humility, the gift given to each of us by our Heavenly Father. In just a few minutes, we will receive the body, the blood, the soul and divinity of Jesus Christ right here in the Eucharist. Eucharist is a word that means thanksgiving. Are we thankful? Are we grateful for all the gifts that God has given us? We have, as Catholics, we have the best thing in the world, the best thing in the entire universe, right here in this church. We have Jesus, who comes down and feeds us with his body and blood. We can't keep that a secret. I went to the discipleship conference a few weeks ago, and one of the speakers there said, always be prepared to give an account for what gives you hope. Now, our non-Catholic brothers and sisters are much better at this than we are. They're always ready to tell you the story of how they came to Jesus, how they were saved. We don't do quite as good a job as Catholics. But never be afraid to tell people about your faith. You know your faith. You know about Jesus. When we leave these doors, we go out into mission territory. There are people who don't know God. They don't know who we are as Catholics. Talk to them. Share what we have here. You know, the choice is yours. You can be open to the gifts that God has given us and share it with the world. Or you can practice a type of self-humility and keep it all to yourself.